The laughter died in my throat. My mother's eyes, usually sparkling with warmth, held a distant, preoccupied look. It was a look I knew too well, a look reserved for the tiny bundle swaddled in her arms, my baby brother, Ethan. He was the sun and I the insignificant shadow, fading further with each passing day. I longed for the days when those eyes would crinkle at the corners just for me, when her embrace held the power to chase away any shadow. Those days seemed like a lifetime ago, lost in the haze of a forgotten summer. Before Ethan arrived, our world had been a kaleidoscope of shared laughter and whispered secrets. I remember baking with Mom, our tiny hands dusted with flour, our faces smeared with chocolate. Her gentle voice filled our little kitchen, singing off-key to songs on the radio. She'd tell me stories of fairies and dragons, her words painting vivid pictures in my mind. Back then I was her world and she mine. We were two halves of a whole, inseparable, our bond unbreakable, or so I thought. Ethan's arrival shattered our idyllic world. The constant crying, the endless feedings, the overwhelming fatigue that clung to Mum like a shroud, it all formed an invisible barrier between us. I became a ghost, unnoticed, unheard. My attempts to bridge the chasm were met with weary sighs and impatient dismissals. "Not now, sweetheart. Mummy's busy." The words, though softly spoken, stung like salt on an open wound. So I retreated, building walls around my heart, brick by painful brick. The day of Ethan's first birthday arrived, a joyous occasion for everyone but me. I had painstakingly crafted a lopsided clay bird for him, my small fingers struggling to mold the unforgiving material. It was a symbol of the love I yearned to share, a fragile bridge over troubled waters. But my offering was met with indifference. Lost in the flurry of activity, Mum barely spared it a glance. "Just put it over there, honey," she mumbled, her attention laser-focused on Ethan's wobbly attempts to blow out the candle. That day, a part of me withered and died. The small hope I had clung to, extinguished. Resentment, like a poisonous vine, began to twist its tendrils around my heart. I craved attention, any attention, even if it meant being reprimanded. I started acting out, my once sunny disposition replaced by a sullen silence punctuated by outbursts of anger. I'd slam doors, refuse to eat, and deliberately disobey her instructions. Each transgression brought with it a fleeting moment of satisfaction, a twisted confirmation that I still had the power to elicit a reaction, even if it was one of frustration. The breaking point came one sweltering summer evening. A fierce thunderstorm raged outside, mirroring the tempest within me. My anger, suppressed for too long, finally erupted. "You don't even care about me," I screamed, my voice raw with pain. "It's like I don't even exist." My words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. My mother's face crumpled, the mask of composure she wore so well finally slipping. In that moment of raw vulnerability, a dam broke within me, releasing a torrent of pain and resentment I had kept bottled up for far too long. Sobbing, I confessed everything. The loneliness, the jealousy, the terrifying feeling of being forgotten. I poured out my heart, laying bare the depths of my despair. Silence followed my confession, thick and suffocating. I braced myself for her anger, her disappointment. Instead, her hand reached out, cupping my face with a tenderness I had craved for years. "Oh, sweetheart," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "I am so sorry. I never realized." Her words trailed off, but I didn't need her to say more. In that single touch, in the heartbroken look in her eyes, I saw my own pain reflected back at me. For the first time, I understood that she wasn't the enemy. She was just a woman, flawed and exhausted, trying to navigate the overwhelming demands of motherhood. That night, as the storm raged outside, a different kind of storm raged within our home, a storm of tears, of apologies, of long overdue conversations. We talked, really talked, for the first time in what felt like forever. She told me about the challenges of being a new mother, the overwhelming fatigue, the fear of not being enough, and I, in turn, confessed my own insecurities, my fear of being replaced, my desperation for her love. The road to healing was long and arduous, marked by setbacks and misunderstandings. But with each passing day, the chasm between us narrowed. The walls we had so carefully erected began to crumble, replaced by fragile bridges of understanding and forgiveness. The scars of those early years remained, a reminder of the pain we had inflicted on each other, but they no longer defined us. We had found our way back to each other, not as a perfect mother and daughter, but as two flawed human beings, bound by a love that, while tested, had ultimately emerged stronger than ever